He sold my car without asking, claiming it was for my own benefit. That same afternoon, I slipped the keys to his shiny new SUV off the hallway table and left without a word. Maybe he assumed I wouldn't notice my Chevy missing, or worse, that I wouldn't dare object. He has always underestimated me, especially now that I'm 74, the age he likes to label as fragile. I'm not fragile. I'm furious. That morning, he came in cheerful, hugging me too tight, talking like he'd done me a favor. Jason only shows up when he wants something. He brewed himself coffee in my kitchen, then casually announced, "By the way, I sold the Chevy. Got a good price. Don't worry. We'll get you rides when you need them." I stared at him across my mug. That car was mine. My name was on the title. I bought it after Arthur passed, drove my granddaughter to school in it, carried my memories in its seats. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was a piece of my life. He treated it like a piece of junk, when he left telling me to rest. I noticed his expensive SUV in the driveway, polished and oversized. He bragged about it last month, his little gift to himself after a promotion. The keys sat waiting on the table. I picked them up, grabbed my purse, and left. The engine purred as if it didn't care whose hands held the wheel. I drove through quiet roads, past Arthur's hedge, past houses where neighbors once waved, past the weight of years. For a moment, I felt 20 again, free, alive, unafraid. I ended up at an old diner off Route 17, the kind Arthur and I once visited. Nothing had changed. The same booths, the same man with a crossword. He nodded and asked if I wanted coffee. I said yes. Through the window, the SUV looked out of place among dusty pickups and rusted sedans. Jason hated places like this. That made me smile. I didn't bring my phone. Let him stew. Let him wonder. He thinks age makes me compliant. It doesn't. Age makes me patient. Later, I drove through the streets of my past. Church, carnival grounds, community center, and finally back home. I parked the SUV where my Chevy used to sit. Inside, I wrote on my notepad, things that are mine, my house. My name, my memories, my choices. I underlined choices twice. By afternoon, Jason was knocking at my door, voice tight, pretending calm. "Mom, let's talk. I didn't mean to upset you." His words scratched against the silence, but I stayed still. He's used to controlling the board, to everyone falling in line. This time, I didn't. He eventually left, tires screeching, probably planning how to explain it all if he called the police. But the SUV sat hidden in the carport, waiting, mine for now. Not revenge, not a game, just proof. To him and to myself, that I am still the one who decides. Birthday checks for the grandchildren. $3,000 to Jason last fall to help cover property tax. $7,500 the year before for a temporary shortage. The year before that, I quit adding it up after $40,000. All of it signed with my hand, written in my script. Money traded for attention that never lasted. That ends now. I pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and wrote one line. "You took what was mine, so I took what was yours. Now we're even." I slipped it into an envelope and left it blank. I'd decide later if he ever needed to read it. For the moment, I had something better than words. I had quiet. And it belonged to me. The Chevy had been more than a car. It was the first thing I ever bought entirely for myself. I was 60 then, 2 years into widowhood. The house was full of silence, so thick it almost seemed alive, pressing down on me. I tried to fill it with walks, church work, library shifts. But nothing replaced Arthur. One morning, staring at the old sedan he used to drive, I realized I couldn't sit behind that wheel again. I sold it. Jason thought I was being rash, tried to steer me toward a lease. I didn't want contracts or obligations. I wanted something I could own outright, That's how the Chevy came to me. It wasn't glamorous, 4 doors, deep blue, gently used. I wrote the check, signed the title, and drove away with the windows down. No music, just air. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Not just a widow, not only a mother, but Martha, a woman in charge of her own life. That car carried me everywhere. To the farmer's market, to the church bazaar, to Rebecca's ballet class when her mother was too busy. It hauled groceries, quilts, pies. On lonely nights, I'd drive with the windows cracked and talk to Arthur, sometimes swearing I could hear him answer. I kept the glove box neat, the trunk stocked with jumper cables, a blanket in the back seat. The gas cap stuck now and then, but I didn't mind. Jason minded. He mocked the Chevy, called it unsafe, out of date, said I was too old to drive alone. But his concern was always selective. He worried about a dented fender, never about the hospital stay where he sent flowers instead of showing up. The truth is, that car bothered him because it was mine, fully mine, something he hadn't arranged, financed, or controlled. And so he got rid of it. Maybe he even convinced himself it was for my safety, but he never asked. That's what cut the deepest. Not the loss of metal and tires, but the unspoken assumption that my voice didn't matter. I stood at the window, tea in hand, staring at his SUV in the driveway, polished to a shine. My reflection stared back at me from its surface, an old woman, arms folded, not waiting for permission. Let him come, let him try to explain. I've never been careless with money. Arthur used to say I could stretch $1 into next week, and he wasn't wrong. We raised Jason on one paycheck when winters slowed the construction jobs. I worked part-time, baked, patched his clothes until fabric gave way. We survived steady, no debt, no drama. After Arthur passed, I stayed careful, paid the mortgage early, kept my accounts in order, allowed myself small comforts only when I turned 70. Jason laughed, called it nesting. But underneath, I heard the judgment. A few years ago, I let him set up online access to my accounts in case of emergencies. At first, it was harmless, a note about a duplicate payment, a suggestion to consolidate bills. But then came the pushes. Let him manage my savings. Let him handle the investments. Let him streamline. I said yes to some things, not out of trust, but out of exhaustion. Tired of the arguments, tired of being treated like stubborn furniture. But today I wasn't tired. I was clear. At 10 sharp, I walked into the bank. The manager, Nancy, recognized me and assumed I had a simple request. I told her firmly, Jason Mercer no longer needed access to my accounts. Remove him from everything. She blinked, hesitated, then nodded. 40 minutes later, it was done. No drama, no hesitation. When she asked if I wanted to add anyone new, I said yes someday, my granddaughter Rachel. But not yet. I left the bank lighter, not younger but more present. I stopped at the post office, bought stamps, and wrote a short letter to Harold Price, my lawyer. I need an appointment for financial changes and personal directives. Call me directly, not my son. I sealed it and set it by the door. That evening, Rachel called. Her voice had that brightness even when she worried. Grandma, are you okay? Dad's been pacing the driveway all day, and Mom's whispering on the phone. I stirred my tea. They must be busy. She paused. Did you take his car? The way she asked, no blame, just curiosity, made me laugh, a dry laugh I hadn't heard from myself in years. I borrowed it. It seemed fair. Rachel laughed too. Grandma, you're kind of a badass. Don't say that word. I told her, still smiling. Too late, she teased. Then she grew quiet. I don't know the whole story, but Dad's been controlling lately. He treats you like you're breakable, but you're not. No, I said. I'm not, and in that moment, I knew Jason would never hold the pen in my life again. No, I agreed again, softer this time. For a while, We both just breathed into the quiet of the call, an unspoken understanding settling between us. "I'm not calling to solve anything," she finally said. "I just wanted you to know. I'm with you. If there even is a side." "There isn't," I replied. "But thank you," she sniffled. "Do you think he'll change his mind?" "No," I said simply, "but that's not the point." Rachel's voice lowered. "Do you want me to come over? I could bring Thai food." That touched me more than I expected. She was the only one who ever asked what might comfort me. Not what was necessary, but what was kind. "Not tonight," I told her, "but thank you, love. Another time." "Okay, but remember, if you ever need backup, I've got a driver's license and questionable diplomacy skills." I laughed. "I'll keep that in mind." We said goodbye. After I hung up, I sat in the dim kitchen, the light buzzing above me, my hands warmed by the mug of tea. Rachel had always been different. She never measured what she gave against what she got. She showed up with books instead of bills. She noticed my headaches, remembered my birthday without reminders. She treated me like more than just a grandmother, like a full person. And now she had noticed the shift. Jason would dismiss it as a mood or dramatics, maybe even a plea for attention. But Rachel understood. She knew silence could be strength, not surrender. I glanced at the folded note I'd written earlier. Picking it up, I crossed out one line and rewrote it. "You sold what was mine." I remembered who I am. That's not revenge. That's correction. I placed it back beside the SUV keys, switched off the light, and let the house fill with earned quiet. The next morning, I put on my navy coat with the deep inside pocket and walked to the bus stop. The SUV was right there, tempting me, but today wasn't about appearances. It was about intention. There's something quietly rebellious about arriving at a lawyer's office by bus at 74, paperwork ready and posture straight. Harold Price's office hadn't changed. The same oak walls, stiff leather chairs, and framed certificates with elaborate lettering. He greeted me with warmth. "Martha," he said, standing, "you look well." "I am," I replied, "but it's time to set things straight." I laid the folder on his desk. "I want to revisit my will, power of attorney, everything." He didn't question me, which is why I always trusted him. For more than an hour, we went through it all. Jason was still listed as executor, something Arthur and I had decided long ago when Jason still visited at Christmas and hadn't yet learned how to disguise control as care. "That needs to change," I said firmly. "He's no longer to have authority over my estate, my health, or my accounts." Harold nodded. "Do you have someone else in mind?" "My granddaughter Rachel. She doesn't know yet, but she will." We revised, updated, drafted. When we reached financial authority, Harold hesitated. "Are you certain?" "I am," I said calmly. "This isn't anger. It's clarity, the difference between helping your children and surrendering your backbone." He studied me for a moment, then nodded and kept writing. That was Harold. He knew when to let the truth sit heavy in the room. When everything was ready, he told me, "Arthur always said you were the steady one. You kept things moving forward, no matter the wind." I smiled faintly. He was the anchor, I was the rudder. Outside, autumn's gold had begun creeping into the trees. I tightened my coat, waited for the bus, and went home to toast and a boiled egg. Reviewing the drafts later, I knew Jason would be furious. But this wasn't about punishment. It was about boundaries. He sold my car without asking, called it kindness. I wondered what word he'd use when he realized he no longer had the keys to anything important. That evening, I pulled out a fresh legal pad and titled the page, "Things I Paid For, Jason Mercer." Not helped with, not contributed to, paid. One by one, I listed them. The down payment on his first house, tuition, emergency surgeries, business loans never repaid, even Christmas money. By the time I stopped, the total stood at $1, 114, 150. Not revenge, not guilt, just evidence. If he ever demanded to know why I changed the documents, why the locks stayed closed, why the calls went unanswered, I would have my answer written in black ink. Later, sitting on the porch, I watched the sky shift colors like a slow confession. The SUV sat in the driveway, neither his nor mine anymore. Just a reminder. That night, with the window cracked open, I thought of Arthur. Once he'd brought me a single daisy without reason. Because, he said, sometimes the one holding everything up deserves to be given something. Jason would never understand that. But Rachel might, and maybe that was enough. The next day, I carried a pitcher of iced tea to my neighbor, Nadine, who was pruning roses. We weren't close in the way young people are, but we shared something quieter: grief, endurance, mornings spent waving at the mailbox. She looked at me at the pitcher and said, "Something's happened." I smiled, not a tragedy, just a change. She wiped her palms on the towel hanging from the fence and motioned me toward the porch. We sat in wicker chairs while her roses curled stubbornly up the trellis. After a sip of tea, she asked, "So, what did your boy do this time?" I raised an eyebrow. "You knew it was Jason, of course. We don't sit out with tea when Rachel skips a phone call." I gave her the outline, not the bank, not the documents, not the full tally, just enough. The car, the silence, the choice made without me. Her mouth twitched only when I mentioned him, claiming it was for my safety. She didn't ask if I was overreacting or if he had good intentions. She said simply, "They love the strength we carry until it inconveniences them. Then they call it stubbornness." I nodded. "I'm tired of being managed." She leaned back. "When Arnold was alive, he made the decisions. I didn't mind. We had our rhythm, but after he died, the kids circled like I was prey. Every visit came with suggestions. Sell the house, downsize, quit driving, let someone else handle the bills, all in the name of love. And did you?" She met my eyes squarely. "Not a single one, and I sleep just fine." We let that sit in the air. Then she asked, "Will you give the SUV back?" "I haven't decided," I said. "It isn't about the car anymore." "No," she agreed. "It's about being reduced." Her gaze held mine without wavering. "That's what they do, piece by piece, not out of cruelty. They don't even see it, but they chip away until you're small enough to manage. And if you're not careful, one morning you realize you've been erased." Her words sank deep, steady, and heavy. "I won't let that happen," I said. "You won't," she replied. "I've watched you. Quiet doesn't mean weak. It means you're saving your strength for what matters." I poured her another glass. She thanked me with a nod. After a pause, she said, "You know what you're doing." "I do, and it isn't spite." "Then you owe no explanation, especially not to a man who thinks he's protecting you by deciding what you're allowed to keep." I smiled, not because I needed permission, but because she understood. Walking home, the sun pressed warm against my back. The SUV was still in the driveway, so was the silence. Both belonged exactly where they were. I was clipping dead leaves from the porch fern when another car pulled up. Not the SUV, still parked and unmoved, but something sleek, borrowed, forgettable. Jason climbed out, wearing the smile he saved for clients and cookouts, the one that said, "I'm in control." "Mom," he greeted like this was a grocery store run-in. Jason. He climbed the steps slowly, cautious. "I've been trying to reach you," I noticed. He searched for an opening. None came. "I know you're upset." "I'm not upset," I said, meeting his eyes. "I'm clear." "Clear about what?" "That I won't accept decisions made for me anymore. You sold my car, Jason, without asking. You didn't even think I deserved to be told." "I was trying to protect you. It was ancient, unsafe, funny." I said. "It never failed me, not once." He sighed, shifting. "Can we talk inside?" "No." He blinked. "No." I didn't stutter. He looked past me into the house like the walls might side with him. "This is getting out of hand. You're not in charge of the scale anymore." That hit. His composure cracked. Fine, I shouldn't have touched your car, but can we stop this game? I'm not playing Jason. I'm reclaiming. Do you want me to apologize? Is that it? No, I want you to know you crossed a line, and there are consequences now. He dropped his voice, soft like I might unravel. Don't make this bigger than it needs to be. Let's be reasonable. I am reasonable. I'm not the one who reduced me to a liability. He tried another angle. Marlene's embarrassed, Rachel's confused, everyone's asking questions. They'll live, so what should I tell them? Tell them I remembered where I parked my dignity. His temper flashed. You're being unreasonable. No, I said. Being reasonable was decades of yeses and swallowed protests. That was unreasonable. I clipped another leaf. You're not coming in today, not out of hate, but because I need space, and you need silence. I'm your son, and I'm still your mother. He left, not slamming the door, not peeling away, just driving off. I locked the door, not from fear, but from choice. He came again the next day, pulling halfway into the driveway as if planting a flag. His knock was practiced calm, the kind that hides impatience. I opened the door but didn't step aside. Jason, Mom, I need to talk. So talk. I spoke to the dealership. They said I signed, so it was legal, but the car was still yours. It was. And now the SUV is missing. It's not missing. It's in the driveway. I mean, not where it should be. Ah. His fingers curled into fists at his sides. I'm asking you to return it. No. Then I'll involve the police. Good. Make sure you tell them everything, how you sold a car you didn't own, took the money, called it protection, how I took the SUV bought with that sale. Don't leave out the details. He swallowed hard. I didn't mean for it to get this far. No one ever does, but here we are. You just didn't need that old car anymore. You mean I didn't need the one thing that was mine? Silence. You're not a bad man, Jason. You just learned to take without asking, and for years I allowed it. That's not fair. It's not meant to be fair. It's true. I was trying to help. No, you were trying to control, wrapped in the language of help, because that's safer for you than respect. His jaw tightened. So what now? You keep the SUV. Maybe. I haven't decided. You're serious. I'm 74. I don't bluff. I'm not the villain here, he said. No, you're just a man who's never been told no. And now you have. He studied me, searching for the woman who used to bend, the one who answered his calls and opened her checkbook. She wasn't there, no. I said finally, I've simply stopped pretending. She was gone. Without another word, he turned, walked to his car, and drove away. I shut the door softly and stood in the hallway with my hand still on the knob. There was no victory in me, only a sense of being whole again. And after so many years, that was enough. Rachel called just after 8. I was folding the guest towels, the ones no guest ever used. Hi, Grandma, she said, her voice softer than usual, careful. I'm here, I answered. I heard something. I don't know if I should tell you, but I can't stop thinking about it. I sat down on the edge of the bed, towel in my lap. Go on. She drew in a breath, like bracing for cold water. I overheard Mom and Dad last night. They didn't know I was there. They were fighting about money. Mom said, you promised me this wouldn't happen again. You said selling the car would cover it. Then she asked what he planned to do now that you had taken the SUV. She said they couldn't refinance again, that the cards were maxed. Rachel paused. I think he sold your car to pay off some debt, Grandma. Something serious, and he didn't want you to know. I closed my eyes, not in surprise, but in recognition. I had suspected the way he avoided my gaze, how tightly he spoke, the urgency in his insistence that it was all for my safety. It had never been about me. It was about turning me into collateral. Thank you for telling me, I said quietly. I wasn't sure if I should, she whispered, but it didn't feel right to keep it. You did the right thing. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't think Mom even knew he hadn't asked you. She didn't. I said. That much I believed. A silence stretched. I'm sorry, Grandma. Rachel said. For what? For him? For all of it. You deserve better. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. It isn't your apology to give, and I didn't do this for revenge. I did it to be awake. Her breath trembled. Are you going to keep the car? I haven't decided. Whatever you do, she said, you're not alone. I looked around my room, Arthur's old lamp, the quiet creaks of the house. I had spent years trying to keep things steady, even as the ground shifted beneath me in small, invisible ways. Now I saw the difference, the thin line between kindness and erasure, between love and slow theft dressed up as good intentions. I know I'm not alone, I told her. After we hung up, I went to the kitchen. Through the window, the SUV shone under the porch light. I stared at it not as a car, but as a symbol. He had sold mine to patch his own mistakes without a word, without a choice. And when I took something back, he called it theft. But what do you call it when your life is emptied piece by piece, all in the name of help? I turned off the light, leaving the kitchen dark. Let him wonder what I would do next. This silence belonged to me. I didn't sleep that night. Not from anger, not from fear, but from clarity. Some moments don't arrive with fire, they come quietly, like a curtain rising. And suddenly the truth is there in daylight, impossible to ignore. By morning, I had decided. At 9:03, I called Harold's office. I'm ready. I told him. He didn't ask why. By noon, I was at his desk, signing papers one careful stroke at a time. Jason was gone from every role. Executor, medical decisions, all of it. I gave the responsibility to Rachel, not because she was flawless, but because she had done what her father hadn't in years. Told me the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. She saw me not as a burden, but as a person. I didn't walk out of Harold's office powerful. I walked out clean. The sun wasn't warm, but it touched me like recognition. When I got home, I tucked the documents into the fireproof box, labeled and neat. If anything happened to me, Rachel would find everything clear. Jason would find nothing left to claim. Later that week, Rachel came with lemon scones, store-bought. She apologized, and I told her I'd eaten worse. We sat at the table in silence, but the good kind, the kind that doesn't need filling. Eventually, she asked, "Did you really change everything?" "Yes, all of it, all of it. Why me?" "Because you see things. You don't use them to your advantage. You never asked for anything, you just showed up. You saw me." She looked overwhelmed but steady. "What if I mess it up?" "You will." I said gently, "Because you're human, but I'm not leaving you money. I'm leaving you trust." We talked about recipes, neighbors, and purple houses instead of betrayal. At the door, she paused. "You know, I used to think getting older meant getting smaller, quieter." "That's what they want us to think," I said, "and what is it really? It's being loud in your own voice, even if it's quiet." She smiled, kissed my cheek, and left. 2 days later, I had the SUV towed. Not to spite him, not as a bargain, just because I didn't want it anymore. A check came in the mail afterward, the exact amount he'd sold my Chevy for. No apology. I tore it up. He hadn't taken a car, he had taken choice, and I had taken it back. That evening, I cleaned the garage. I found the old tin box with the Chevy's spare key and photo. I kept it, closed the lid, and left the shelves bare. I liked the emptiness. In my journal, I wrote, "Today I didn't win." I remembered who I am, and I let go of who I'm not. Looking out at the clear driveway, I thought about all the versions of myself who had lived in this house. The young mother, the widow, the woman who nearly disappeared into usefulness. But not quite, because here I was still me, no longer waiting for permission. Rachel called the next morning. "I saw a tow truck at your house yesterday." "Yes," I said. I made some room for something new. For what? For nothing at all. She paused. That's the bravest thing I've heard in a long time. I didn't feel brave. I felt free. And sometimes those are the same thing.